Hello everyone, welcome back to Fact Lens. Now, this episode was meant to be published before the election, but a day to the election, the government of Uganda shut down the internet and kept it off till long after polling and declarations were done. Nevertheless, let's get started. Viral does not necessarily mean true, so we are back again with this new episode debunking viral claims that have been making the rounds. My name is Divine Masinalwanga with Collins Mulindwa on sign language, and here are the top misinformation stories from the first half of December. There is a claim that Museveni ran away from Uganda and sought refuge in Rwanda. Photos of skulls making rounds will tell you how this is linked to President Museveni and if it is even true in the first place. Ugandans will lose their land if they do not vote Bobi Wine. And an alleged 150,000 shillings cash bonanza from Museveni to all Ugandans. As Uganda moves closer to the 2026 general election, political speculation online is becoming louder and in some cases far more dramatic than factual. One post on X made a bold and alarming claim that protesters would take over State House and that President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni would flee to Rwanda. The post, shared by a user identifying as UG Lawyer, was framed as insider intelligence from a supposed Special Forces command source. It read, quote, "My brother in SFC on 17th January 2026, running to confirm to us that protesters have taken over State House and Museveni has escaped to Rwanda." That's a serious allegation. The post didn't just rely on words. It was accompanied by an image of a uniformed officer running, creating the impression of an unfolding security crisis. And it gained traction, more than 5,000 views, hundreds of likes, and multiple reposts. So, we paused and verified. First, we checked the image. A reverse image search showed that the photo was not new and not Ugandan. It has circulated online before, mostly in satirical and meme contexts, including posts about banter between Zimbabwean and South African armies. There is no link to Uganda, the UPDF, or State House. A closer visual look confirmed the mismatch. The uniform is not UPDF. The vehicles in the background resemble US military mine-protected vehicles typically seen in desert environments. UPDF vehicles are usually army green, which this image is not. In short, the image was recycled and used illustratively, not as evidence. Next, we checked the events themselves. There are no reports from credible local or international media of protesters taking over State House. No official statements, no security alerts, and no evidence that President Museveni fled Uganda. None! We also examined wider political context. Some users linked the claim to past remarks by opposition leader Bobi Wine, who once said that if he were assassinated, supporters should march to the State House with his body. But those remarks were widely understood as political expression, not prediction, plan, or confirmation of events. They do not support the claim being made here. So, what's the verdict? This post is misleading. It presents a speculative future scenario as if it were a confirmed fact and props it up with an old, unrelated image to manufacture urgency and credibility. And here is the takeaway. As elections approach, be especially cautious of posts that present prediction as breaking news, claim inside security sources without evidence, reuse dramatic military images to suggest unrest, and push fear or excitement instead of verified facts. Speculation is not evidence, and in sensitive electoral moments, misleading content can do real harm. As Uganda heads towards the 2026 general elections, historical images are increasingly being used online to support modern political accusations, often without context or proof. One such post circulating on X claims that a photograph showing piles of human skulls proves that President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is responsible for mass killings in Gulu and the Luwero Triangle. The post, shared by a user at Baker Sebat 51443, urges Ugandans to vote opposition leader Bobi Wine and alleges, without evidence, that Museveni's government caused more deaths than the regime of Idi Amin and Milton Obote. It presents the image as visual proof of these claims. Because of the seriousness of that accusation, we verified it. First, we checked the image itself. The photograph is real. But being real does not automatically make the claim true. Reverse image searches show the image has been online for several years and did not originate during the current election period. Its reuse alone raises question about context, so we traced it further. The image appears in the 2017 photo essay by The Guardian titled Uncatchable, The Fruitless Quest of Joseph Kony in Pictures. That publication documents the humanitarian impact of violence linked to the Lord's Resistance Army in northern Uganda and the wider region. Importantly, The Guardian does not attribute the skulls to killings ordered by President Museveni, nor does it link them directly to Guru Oluwero during his presidency. We then checked archival records. The same image is stored in the Getty Image Archive, credited to Mike Nelson/AFP. The official caption states that the skulls are from a mass grave in the Luwero Triangle linked to atrocities committed during the Obote II regime. According to the caption and historical records, about 300,000 people were killed during Obote's rule. Museveni's National Resistance Army was fighting the Obote II government at the time. Museveni only became president in January 1986 after that conflict. That directly contradicts the claim that this image represents killings carried out under Museveni's presidency. So, what's the verdict? The claim is unverified and misconceptualized. The image is real, but it has been removed from the original historical context and falsely linked to a political accusation that is not supported by verified records, court findings, or credible journalism. And here are the lessons. During election periods, be especially cautious of highly emotional historical images shared without sources, posts that reuse old photos with new political captions, claims comparing death tolls without credible data or investigations, visual content designed to provoke anger rather than information. Images can be powerful, but without context, they can also mislead. As Uganda approaches the 2026 general election, fear-based political messages are increasingly circulating online, often framed as urgent warnings, but without evidence. One such post shared on X by the account at BakerSebat51443 claims that Ugandans who want to continue owning land beyond 2026 must vote for opposition leader Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, also known as Bobi Wine. The post is presented in a bold breaking news format and ends with a warning: "Don't say I didn't warn you." By using the language and visuals of credible news alerts, the post implies that land ownership in Uganda is under imminent threat if Bobi Wine is not elected president, but it offers no proof. So, we checked. First, we reviewed Uganda's legal framework on land ownership. Land rights in Uganda are protected by the 1995 Constitution. Article 237 clearly states that land belongs to citizens of Uganda and is vested in them under recognition tenure systems. These protections are reinforced by the Land Act, which governs customary, freehold, my-law, and leasehold land. Neither the Constitution nor the Land Act ties land ownership to election outcomes or to victory or defeat of any political candidate. Next, we examined official government records. We found no government policy, bill, court ruling, or official statement suggesting that Ugandans will lose their land after 2026 based on who wins the election. No ministry, constitutional body, or judicial authority has issued such a warning. We also checked attribution of Bobi Wine himself. A review of his verified social media accounts, speeches, interviews, and party policy documents shows no statement where he claims that voting for him is the only way to protect land ownership in Uganda. So what's the verdict? The claim is unverified and misleading. It presents speculative political warning as fact, relies on fear rather than evidence, and misuses the visual language of news to imply authority it does not have. And here's what to watch out for. Be cautious of posts that use breaking news labels without sources, link personal property rights directly to voting behavior, offer warnings without citing laws, policies or institutions, rely on fear instead of policy debate. Land is an emotional and sensitive issue in Uganda, which makes it especially important to verify claims before sharing them. A message circulating widely on social media claims that President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is offering a nationwide development cash grant of 150,000 Ugandan shillings to all Ugandans. The message, which has spread mainly on WhatsApp, is presented as an SMS-style notification congratulating recipients upon qualifying for the alleged grant. It urges users to click the link and press OK to withdraw the money. But we checked. First, we examined the link itself. When clicked, the link redirects users to third-party web pages that are not affiliated to any Ugandan government institution. The pages display a congratulatory message claiming users have qualified for what they call a President Yoweri Museveni 150,000 Ugandan shillings development cash grant and prompt them to continue. After pressing OK, users are shown pages filled with fake testimonials from supposed beneficiaries thanking the founder for the money. Next, we looked at what information the site collects. Users are asked a series of questions, including whether they are Ugandan, whether they have national IDs, their gender, and their age range. They are then told to have 3 chances to win the money by selecting a gift box, a common tactic used in online scams. Crucially, the process never reaches a legitimate payment stage. The site does not request mobile money details, bank information, or provide any verified government payment mechanism. There is no clear explanation on how the money would be disbursed, a major red flag. We then checked official sources. Searches of announcements about 150,000 Ugandan shillings cash grant found no statements from State House, the government of Uganda, or any credible local or international media outlet. Legitimate government programs are typically announced through official channels and widely reported. This one was not. So what's the verdict? This claim is a hoax. There is no government program offering 150,000 Ugandan shillings through an online link. The circulating message shows clear signs of a phishing scam designed to mislead users and potentially harvest personal information. And here is what to watch out for. Be cautious of unsolicited grant messages on WhatsApp. Government programs are not distributed through random links. Fake testimonials and "you have won" messages are common scam tactics. Never click links urging immediate action without verification. Election periods often see increased misuse of official names to deceive the public, and this is one of those cases. A claim circulating widely on social media alleges that the British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, has conducted an election poll showing Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, popularly known as Bobi Wine, leading Uganda's presidential race with 60% ahead of the January 15th, 2026 elections. The post, shared on X, presents the claim as authoritative by invoking the BBC's name, a globally trusted media organization, giving the impression that the projected outcome is backed by credible international research. But we checked. First, we searched BBC platforms directly using keywords such as BBC Election Poll Uganda, BBC Bobi Wine Poll, and BBC Uganda Elections 2026. We found no election poll published by BBC News Africa, the BBC World Service, or BBC affiliated platforms showing vote percentages or predicting a winner. Next, we reviewed actual BBC election coverage. BBC News Africa has published analysis and background reporting of Uganda's elections, focusing on the political context and the main contenders, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and Robert Kyagulanyi. However, this coverage provides context and analysis, not polling data, voting projection, or percentage-based prediction. We also examined the source of the claim. The account that shared the post has previously circulated partisan and misleading political content. There is no link, no methodology, no sample size, and no publication reference, all of which are standard requirements for any credible poll. And it's important to note this: the BBC does not publish opinion polls without clearly stating who conducted them, how many people were surveyed, where the data came from, and when it was collected. None of that information appears in the viral post. So what's the verdict? This claim is misleading. There is no BBC poll showing Bobi Wine leading the presidential race with 60%. The post falsely attributes polling data to the BBC and misrepresents the broadcaster's election coverage. Here is what to watch out for. Be cautious of poll claims that cite major media brands without links. Credible polls always disclose methodology and sources. BBC analysis is not the same as election polling. Screenshots and captions are not evidence. As elections approach, international media names are increasingly being used to give false claims a sense of legitimacy. That's all we have time for in Fact Lens this week. Always stop and verify before you share. I am Divine Masi Nalwanga, and as always, stay curious, question everything. See you next time. Bye-bye.